A political rupture has erupted at the highest level of the Senegalese state. The alliance that once symbolized hope and Pan-Africanist reform is now visibly cracking. Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko, a key figure in the rise of the current government, is publicly voicing deep dissatisfaction with President Bassirou Diomaye Faye. Their once united front appears to be fracturing under the weight of unfulfilled promises and growing public discontent.
Diomaye can put an end to multiple verbal attacks against me. Why doesn't he do it? That's another question. Senegal has only one problem, a problem of authority. We must take responsibility for this situation.
The party will remain a fighting party, as it was in the opposition, to fulfill the commitments we made to the people of Senegal, in the opposition as in power as a party. I am the best placed to say what path was set for the base.
In a recent address, Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko expressed frustration over what he perceives as a lack of political will to protect him from persistent verbal attacks. "We live in a country where people recognized by the Constitution are forbidden to speak," Sonko said. "I went to see the president. He can put an end to the multiple attacks against me. Why doesn't he do it?" Sonko, who rose to political prominence as a bold critic of the previous regime and as the leader of the PASTEF party, the Patriots, has remained vocal even from within government. He emphasized that the party would remain a combat party, continuing the resistance mindset it held during the opposition years to fulfill its commitments to the Senegalese people. But beneath this declaration lies a deeper tension. The country's economy, Sonko warned, is in dire condition. "The economy is in ruins across all sectors. Nothing is working," he added. His words struck a nerve with many citizens who have grown increasingly concerned about rising debt levels, economic stagnation, and what some call a lack of tangible progress. Observers note that the relationship between Sonko and President Bassirou Diomaye Faye is becoming strained. Though they once campaigned as partners in reform, recent developments suggest a divergence in their approaches to governance. According to Sonko, the current administration risks abandoning the Pan-Africanist ideals that fueled their rise to power. He criticized what he described as soft governance and pointed out that the president has not taken firm steps to stop the attacks aimed at him, a silence Sonko finds troubling. Meanwhile, voices from civil society have grown louder. Several groups have expressed disapproval of the government's initial decisions, questioning whether the administration still aligns with the goals and ideals it once professed. Activists argue that the government's actions so far do not reflect the transformative agenda many hoped for. While Sonko appears determined to hold the president accountable, stating his goal is to bring Diomaye back to reason at any cost, the political space is becoming increasingly polarized. Senegal has only one problem, a problem of authority, Sonko declared. "We must take responsibility for this situation." His repeated insistence that the party remains one of resistance both in opposition and in power suggests an internal divide regarding the methods and identity of the movement. "I am the best positioned to explain the direction the party was meant to take," he said, reaffirming his leadership and interpretation of the party's mission. Political tensions that were once beneath the surface are now in plain view. The previously subtle disconnect between Sonko and Diomaye has exploded into public discourse, prompting national debate. The schism threatens to destabilize a government that once stood as a symbol of generational change in Senegal. For many Senegalese citizens, this unraveling is a source of disappointment. The expectations that accompanied the government's rise, promises of sovereignty, integrity, and a radical break from past governance, are now being questioned. In place of renewal, some citizens report feeling abandoned or misled. Multiple voices have spoken out about incoherent decision-making, lack of sovereign vision, and a governing style seen as inconsistent with the ideals of a Pan-African future. Though the administration has only been in power for a little over a year, analysts and civil society organizations are already labeling its early performance as chaotic and ineffective. This general disillusionment has manifested in spontaneous protests and gatherings across several regions in Senegal. The popular unrest reflects a growing frustration over perceived contradictions between political rhetoric and actual governance. Critics have also pointed to Sonko's continued use of social media platforms for communication, suggesting that such behavior is unbecoming of a sitting prime minister. They argue that while the country faces pressing issues, economic downturn, rising debt, and unresolved security matters, Sonko's focus appears to remain on his legal troubles. Sonko was previously convicted, and that conviction has been confirmed, making him ineligible to run for president in 2029. His detractors claim that this situation now dominates his political agenda more than the needs of the nation. "He worries more about his future than about the Senegalese people," said one vocal critic. They also accuse him of not reacting when national tragedies occur, such as the deaths of soldiers or students. How can one say he represents the interest of Senegal when he remains silent on such issues? One citizen questioned during a televised commentary. The broader criticism directed at PASTEF and its followers centers around what many describe as a cult of personality surrounding Sonko. Critics claim that the party's supporters rarely question or challenge leadership decisions, no matter the consequences. Have you ever seen a PASTEF member criticize them? Never, one speaker declared. On the contrary, they encourage every action, even mistakes. Others accuse the party of neglecting crucial national issues like healthcare, education, and entrepreneurship. According to these voices, the movement focuses primarily on Sonko's legal defense and political survival, rather than development and national unity. The administration has also faced scrutiny for its management of public funds. In one instance, parliamentarians were accused of voting for a law that allowed the distribution of 4 billion CFA francs among themselves, a move critics say contradicts the image of integrity the party once championed. Statements from some government ministers further fueled criticism. One minister reportedly said that when presented with a CV from a Senegalese citizen, their first concern was whether the applicant was affiliated with PASTEF or not. Critics cite this as evidence of political favoritism and exclusion. President Diomaye himself has not been spared. Accusations have emerged suggesting that his main objective is to pave the way for Sonko to eventually assume power, despite Sonko's legal ineligibility. This has led to speculation about whether national interests are being prioritized or sidelined for political loyalty. The opposition and various segments of civil society have raised concerns about what they see as a government disconnected from the people's aspirations. These leaders are more focused on themselves, their parties, and their comfort than on the nation, said one activist. This narrative of betrayal is spreading rapidly. For many Senegalese, the current state of the nation feels far from the renewal they were promised. The country is still facing high levels of debt, unemployment, and economic uncertainty. Infrastructure challenges remain unaddressed, and security in the region is fragile. Senegalese citizens, once filled with optimism, are now calling for a return to genuine leadership. They demand politicians who serve the nation, not themselves. The calls for accountability, transparency, and strategic governance are growing louder by the day. Commentators warn that if the current political rupture between Sonko and Diomaye deepens, it could further destabilize the government and open the door to wider unrest. Others believe this is a natural and necessary period of recalibration that will determine the true course of Senegal's democratic experiment. In the meantime, Senegal watches closely. Will the Diomaye administration address these criticisms and redefine its approach? Will Sonko continue his public confrontations, or will reconciliation prevail? And above all, will the Senegalese people get the leadership they were promised? The road ahead remains uncertain. Thank you to all our subscribers and supporters of Voice of Africa. Your engagement helps us continue to provide balanced and thorough coverage of critical developments across the continent. If you find this report informative, consider liking the video, sharing it, and subscribing to the channel for more content like this. Your support through super thanks or membership allows us to keep independent journalism alive. Stay tuned. More updates are coming as the situation unfolds.